now. All right, then I will open my file that is going to be the Highland Shield UV. And do you want to save changes? No, don't save. Okay. Now let me just double check that this is. So after opening the file, you'll see that in here I have my low polygonal or completely unwrapped. You can see the UV unwrap work that I did on that one. If I go to the UV editing menu, if I select this thing, you should be able to see these UV unwrap. Now over here, what I'm going to do is just hide the texture so you can see the what I did for the UV unwrap. Notice that this is divided in different pieces. It is the front shield, and it is this part, the handle, and the other part of the handle. So all in total, they are not right on top of each other. What I want to do is have a single material for all of these, and that's why they are all distributed among the whole thing. Notice also that this part is larger because that's the one that is going to contain more detail, and I want to have more pixels in that area. So that's that. I'm gonna go back to my Maya Classic, and I'm also going to show you the high polygonal sculpture. In here, this high poly isn't really a sculpture. I'm gonna be talking about sculpturing later today, but for now, this has more detail than the one that I had before. See, that is the low polygonal. This is the high polygonal. The count itself on this one is 948 faces. The count on this one is triple that size. Okay, there's more detail in here, but what I'm gonna try to do is just save all of that information on this mesh inside of a texture. These are separate meshes, so if I was to go to mesh separate, you will see that these guys are just living on top of the other shield. It is pretty much the same shield, except it has more details right on top of it. And this area down here, I added more cuts in order to make those indentations and going in the surface. So I'm going to undo that, selection and division, there. And the whole point of what we're going to be doing next is maintain this shell with this shape, but have all of the details that I have on this one, or fake them as much as I can. So in order to do that, what I need to do is prep my material in such a way that is living in the texture as we kind of did with the chessboard. What I'm going to do here is, first off, I'm going to select everything, and you will notice that if you go to your assign existing material, I already created some materials for you. In here, apply the still one to everything. So select all of these guys, right click and say just still. This material is nothing more than a color. That is the white color. What we want to have here is contrasting colors. It doesn't really matter what color it is. That is just going to be a map. So for instance, I know that this part, the metallic part, is going to be grayish, but I don't want to have something that is really close to another gray that I might use later. So white is a good example here. White is going to be really contrasting to pretty much anything that I'm going to be throwing in later. I call this TM as in temporary material because later I'm going to be deleting these materials from the hypergraph, and I want to be able to select them really quickly. So that's it with this one. The next one is this part here. I'm going to right click and assign the leather material in here. Once again, the color is green, not because the leather is going to be green, it's just because it's contrasting with the rest of it. Okay. Next part, this is also going to be metallic, so that's fine. Over here, if I select this object and apply a material to it, I'm going to be applying it to everything, but that's not what I want here. This part of the shield is blue. If you've never seen a hidden shield before, you can go to the desktop or to the whatever you downloaded that thing, and there I have reference images. So let's open them with photos, and oh, that's a reference. Edit in photos, and then you get to see what the colors are for this guy. All right, so that. Okay. Now, from what I see here, I have this area that is going to be yellow and this area that is going to be red. There is not enough information in my mesh right now in order to just draw the highlight or the contour of that particular shape. That's something I'm gonna leave for later. This back part though, when I modeled it, I designed it with this material in mind. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hide my neutral layer. And after selecting this one, actually this part is also from the neutral layer. I will select that. No, never mind, that is not from the neutral layer. I'm not gonna add it. But I'm gonna select this part and I'm gonna right click and say select faces. I'm gonna select these guys here. And I am recording, right? Yes. And just on those faces, I'm going to apply the material. So assign existing material, this one is going to be blue. Oops, sorry, it's not gonna be blue, it's going to be wood. Wood. Now that wood, again, the color is really not an indication of the real color of the material, it's just a map. You may try to assign a color that is close to the actual material texture, like what I'm going to do with the blue on the front. Be careful of the faces that you select. And I will say assign existing material blue. That is the blue part of the metal. So it can be the same material so long as it's contrasting with the other materials that are around it. Depending on the model software that you're using, you may not have the option to apply a single material to a face and then have other faces in the same object being different colors. That is something Maya lets you do, but long time ago, I don't know if they changed that already or not, but in 3ds Max, you cannot apply a material per face. You need to apply a material per object, or you need it. That was the case. Honestly, I don't know if they changed that already or not. But if that is the case on any software that you're using, you can actually extract the faces out of this object and just have a separate group saying this is going to be the material applied to this. So the faces don't need to be connected. In my case here in Maya, I can just go to Edit Mesh and Face Extract. That is going to extract those faces and is going to be considered a separate group. Although I don't need to do that here because once again, Maya lets me do materials per face. So I'm gonna select the faces on the front. I'm going to try to do rings as much as possible, but do the shape my object have. Sometimes it doesn't let me. Bless you. See, for instance, in there, even though this is completely straight, it's not gonna let me do a straight selection.
Could you just do UV shell?
That is not a bad idea. Yeah, I can go to my UV editing and I can say shell. That's smart. I don't think I even need to convert to faces, but let's try it. So yeah, I don't even need to convert to faces. But if it makes you feel better, control and say two faces, and then you apply that. In case I didn't have that shell, then yeah, I will need to do the selection as I did it first. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to do is known as exploding the mesh. First off, I'm going to say File, Increment, and Save. And then I have a new version of this file. All right, so in here, the next thing that I want to do is explode my mesh. What do I mean with explode the mesh? I'm going to select these guys that they are right on top of this shell, and I'm just going to move them out of the way. All right, they don't need to be connected, because right now, if I have them like that, they will be casting information on top of the object. It's gonna be more clear once I get to that point. But if I leave it here and I say, hey, make me the texture, this green might bleed into this region over here, and that is gonna cause you some issues down the road. So I'm gonna take all of these shapes and I'm just going to move them. The only condition is they need not to be right on top of each other. It doesn't matter how far away they are, well, so long they are not really touching, that is good enough. Okay? I'm going to select all of these things, a single selection, and then in my menu here from modeling, I'm gonna change to rendering. Do you see where I am now? From modeling, I'm going all the way here to rendering. Then I'm going to go to lighting and shading, this menu right after window, the first specialized menu on the rendering. And I'm going to go to transfer maps. I'm going to make sure that I reset my settings. You should have them all reset. So I'm just going to reset my settings once again. And see, target mesh is the ones that I have selected by default. What I want is to extract the information from this mesh and apply it to a different mesh. But I don't have a different mesh. So what do I do? This is under lighting, shading, and transfer maps. Okay, that's going to open this function. So edit, reset settings. This is the target selection. Okay. Now I don't have a source because I don't have anything else to extract this information from. I'll get to that point in a minute. But what I'm going to do here is the colors are already in this same material. So in here, with these guys selected, only these guys selected, I'm going to say Control D. Notice how it's going to make a duplicate of those objects right on top of each other. That's what I want. All right? Let me repeat the whole part. I'm going to undo until I started exploding my mesh. So I'm going to enable my layer. Then I'm going to select all of these guys and I'm going to move them outside of the mesh. Then I'm going to do a marquee selection on all of them. And then on my transfer maps, these should be the target mesh. I can just say add selected if I don't see them there. I'm going to Control D, so I duplicate it. Do you see now I have the low, the bolts low, the handle low, and the strap low? What's up?
I'm sorry, enable layer, what layer, and also how do we enable?
So I heard the first part of the question. This layer, neutral layer, so see the ones. What was the second part of the question? Sorry. All right. So the next part is add selected. And now you can see that I have highly or shield low shape, bolt low shape, handle low shape, strap low shape, and over here I have the same names but with the one append before the shape. That means that this is a duplicate. Yes? Pardon me? Lighting, shading, transfer maps. Okay? Now, over here is going to ask me, what kind of maps do you want to extract out of this shell? Right now, the only one that I want to get out of is going to be the diffuse map. That is the only one for now. And I want to work with a PNG file. So I'm going to look for PNG. I'm going to browse where I want to save this. And I don't want to save it in scenes. Normally, this is going to save under images, but I want to use that as a source image as well. So I'm just going to move into source image and change the alias pics for a PNG file. And I'm just going to call this Hylian Shield. And this is going to be underscore CC as in color code. I'm going to hit save here. And this is the map that I'm extracting. Once again, the diffuse color map, extract Hylian Shield CC. And down here, this is the other important part. This is going to be the resolution of that texture. I will say this is going to be a 1048 by 1048. That is a 2K resolution. Then pardon me? 2048. Oh, 2048. I want to transfer in world space, which is the default, so don't change that. And then this part is important. The higher the quality here, the better job it's going to do, but the more time it's going to take. So I'm going to hit X8, and then that's the only thing that I need to change. I'm going to hit bake and close, and I'm going to stop the recording and help you individually if you have any questions. Start recording. So I went back to the original version. I already have my file saved here. This is just what it looks like. And once again, I'm bleeding a little bit in here. That's totally fine. For the purpose of this exercise, this is perfect. That's just what I wanted. So I'm going to stop this. And now what I want to do is open this texture in Photoshop. So open with Adobe Photoshop. Is yours a general question? Okay. I saw the extension was .al, then .png. I don't know if that mixed anything up.
No, it was .png. I just forgot to rename it the end of the extension.
And source meshes.
All right, so over here, what I want to do is be able to transfer the information out of. Do you remember what we did on the chessboard? We selected by color range, all right? I'm gonna do the same here. I'm gonna say select, and then I'm gonna say color range. Why doesn't it let me? I need to select the layer thing. Select color range, that was the issue. Select color range after selecting what layer you are on. And I'll say I want to select the white part. The fuzziness is going to be important in this case. For me, I'm going to use a fuzziness of 35, and that is the selection. Okay, those white parts are the selection. In here, if I want to change the color, only the color, I will just select the brush and say, you know what, this metallic part is going to be red. Doesn't make sense. I'm just giving you an example. Okay, so what you want to do is find a texture online. You select any color that you want. In my case, I selected the white one, so that is going to be my metallic part. I'm going to go to my textures.com, and I'm going to find a steel metallic texture. So let's find steel. This one looks fine. I don't know if it's going to contain texture files. Yes, it does. Awesome. Also, it's going to contain a normal map, which is great, but let's talk about the texture first. Brass, roughness, brass dark. What file do I like better? This aluminum is fine. So I'm going to take that aluminum. It also contains a normal map that is great for the sake of the example, but we're going to be extracting the normal maps in a different software later. So I'm going to take this one. I'm going to download this medium one, and I'm going to pause my recording. And then after logging in, I'm just going to make sure that I get the texture that I wanted, which is this one. You can just Google any image. It doesn't need to come from this site. Just make sure that you're allowed to use that for your student projects. Now that I have that file, I'm going to show it in folder and also open it in Photoshop. So right click, open with, and browse for Photoshop. There it is. Now I'm going to select this whole thing. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it in this layer. This is going to be smaller than what I have, so I'm just going to stretch it up. And remember that you guys already have a selection. If you didn't, I don't know why I don't have mine. I'm going to reselect it. So color range, select that part, and now you have a mask. Enable the texture, select over the texture, and just say Control X, Control Shift B, and that is going to put it right on top of where I want it. Do you remember doing that for the chessboard? Exactly the same thing that I'm doing here. I'm going to.
If you want to be more exact, you can do Control Shift I to invert your selection and then click delete.
I'm also going to show you how to bleed into the texture. So let me delete these two layers. I'm going to reopen the texture.
I'm having trouble selecting the white parts of this map, but I'm getting the no fixes or selected.
So that, I'm going to duplicate the layer once again. Onto Hylian. And in Hylian, I'm going to stretch it up to the whole region. I'm going to select my color range once again. Select color range, white. And then I want to expand my selection a little bit to the sides. So that is going to go from select, modify, set border, oh, expand. And then I want to expand for like 3 pixels, and it's going to make it thicker. Okay. Then I will select this layer, and then Control C, Control Shift B, and then I should have my material. Any questions with that? Great. So the next part that I'm going to do is select the metallic map.
Some of them don't have a textures.com account and it asks for it when you want to go in and download the thing, so I just told them to use gray.
No, they need to use a texture. Just find a texture online. Just Google an image.
Okay.
For this homework assignment, I'm not going to be accepting just plain colors unless it's a must on your shape. You need to use textures and you need to adapt them to this file. I'm no longer going to be accepting just like, oh, this looks blue, so I'm just going to use a solid blue. That is not acceptable for this textures assignment, okay? So then I'm going to go to select and I'm going to select my blue. This is where the important part is going to happen, okay? So I'm going to select that. I'm going to go all the way back to this texture and I will say Control-C, Control-Shift-B to paste it on top of what I had. And then this texture is metallic, right? This looks fine, but it's not the right color. I can multiply by the actual layer that I have underneath. I can make a new layer if I didn't select the original color. This is going to be blue metal. But over here, this layer, I can fill it in blue. Let's say that this is the Hylian sheet blue. And now what I want to do is also cut around this selection. As I already have this selected, I just hit Control, click on this part, and I already have my mask for free because the object has an alpha. Or you can just do the same thing that we did before, select this object, make sure you say select, deselect, and then select by color range. Maybe grow the selection by expanding it 3 pixels. And then over this one, I can just say Control-C, Control-Shift-B, hide these two. So I have the metallic part and the blue color. On the blue color, what I can do is say multiply, and then I will change the opacity of this thing. And that is going to be modified based on the actual mesh that it has underneath. This is not the most beautiful way of making a blue texture for metallic, but it's going to be really hard for you to find a metallic map that is blue online. Okay, so you can always modify it this way. Multiply, let's say, burn. Where's my burn? Well, let's take color burn. Nope, not the best option. You can play with the colors to see which one is going to be giving you the best effect. I'm gonna say linear light, and I'm going to change my opacity to something a little bit larger. And that is going to be my metallic, okay? If I zoom in into this object, I should be able to see some details. Okay, that's what I meant with don't just use solid colors. You wanna have some extra information coming from the texture. For now, I'm gonna say File, Save As, and I'm gonna save this as a PSD file. I'm going to call this T_Hylian shield, and that is going to be a PSD file. Maya is going to be able to take those PSD files, so I will just take these and say assign a new material, Lambert, and this is going to be my Hylian shield. Select the new texture that you created, Hylian shield PSD, and that should give you the preview of what you're looking for. Okay, what am I missing in here? I'm missing the green channel in the back, which is going to be leather, and I'm missing the wood channel, which is the yellow one. That I would just leave it like that. That is pretty much the same that you did for the chessboard, and it's the same thing that I just did before. But I want to use the next part of the class to show you how to get the information out of the high polygonal one, because we don't have any ways of saying my eagle is going to be right here, right? We don't have that luxury right now. If I say, well, I might want to try to eyeball it, first off, I suck at drawing. I personally suck at drawing. So I'm going to say, that's my eagle, all right? That sucks. I'm gonna save file, save, and then I'm gonna go to this part. I'm gonna click on the texture. I'm gonna reload. Oh, did I not save? File, save. So I just didn't give it enough time to save the file, I guess. Give me my texture. There you go. That doesn't look like an eagle for whatever reason. I can try to paint I can try to extract that information from the texture using Photoshop and then just put it in there, but that doesn't really work that well for me. So what I'm going to do here is, first off, I'm gonna get rid of this brush because it looks terrible. I'm gonna save my file over. And now what I'm going to do is extract the information directly from the high polygonal mesh. Okay? Before I move forward, am I waiting for anyone on the previous past thing? Okay, so I see 3, 4 hands. Luke is gonna. Okay. Do you know how to multiply? Do you know how to multiply the colors with the textures? All right. I will have to let you go for now with that and follow along with what I'm doing. The video is going to be available, so you can always retrace that and come to office hours. But if I don't finish this part, I'm going to set you in trouble for the homework assignment that is due on Friday. Okay? So I'm going to reload my file just to make sure that I have that there. And that looks okay. I'm still missing the multiply the other parts. So what I'm going to do next is really important, all right? Pay attention to this part because it's a new piece of software that I'm going to be teaching you guys. This is called X normal. So look for it in your computers, X normal. And you will see these beautiful, just say okay, that's fine, that's a warning. You will see this beautiful interface that escaped the 80s, right? Do you know where to close this file? You will try to find it over here, like the normal standard. No, it's right here in the opposite corner. That's where you close this file, this program. All right. Now, don't let the awful interface fool you. This program is great, and it's really useful for what we're going to do next.
It's like 2002 all over again.
It's not even that. I would say the 80s, 90s.
It's literally the first days of movies when we didn't know how to make them.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of Winamp. All right, so I'm gonna take this file, just this one. Notice that I hide the neutral, and I'm gonna select the two of these the things. That is gonna be the shield low and the bolts low. All right, then I'm going to go to Windows, Setting Preferences, Plugin Manager. For whatever reason, these computers always reset my settings here, so just make sure that you have an FBX enabled. fbxmaya.mll, almost all the way down.
It's already
What's that under?
But it's not on mine, and I know that every single class I do, so that's why I'm saying it for everybody.
What category is that under?
Actually, the category it's itself FBX plugin, so it's almost all the way down. The other one that I want you to have enabled is the OBJ export, but we're not going to be doing OBJs right now. We're doing FBX files.
You want auto load?
Both of them, loaded and auto load. Yes.
And the second one is object export?
OBJ export.
OBJ.
Yes, and that is in the first, the Bean plugins. The FBX is under FBX plugins, so it's almost all the way down. If I stretch up my window, I will see it here. So I'm going to close that. And now with that selected, I'm going to File, Export Selection, and I will go down to my desktop. That's where I'm going to save this. And this is going to be my Hylian low. Export selection. Okay? Then I'm going to select the Hylian high, both of them. The bolts and the shield. And once again, I'm going to go to File, Export Selection, and now this time it's going to be called Hylian High. Export Selection, FBX. It's doing its thing. And I think it's done. In my desktop, I should have these two files. I'm gonna click on high definition, and as you can see, I already did something in here, so I'm just gonna say clear meshes, make sure that you don't have anything in there. You shouldn't, but let's just make sure that you don't have anything in there by clicking clear all meshes, both in the high and in the low. Pardon me?
This is all in the video, right?
Yes, yes, it's being recorded right now. So click on the high definition, clear the meshes. Click on the low definition, clear the meshes. In my high definition, guess what goes? The highline high. Just drag and drop it. In the low definition, I have my highline low, so drag and drop it. The next thing that you need to do is go to baking options and then say what is the size that you want your texture out. This is going to be 2048 by 2048, and I'm going to save it on my desktop as Hylian PNG. The maps that you want to extract out of this thing are the ambient occlusion and the normal map, just those two. Notice here that you have a color map. Where is it?
The ambient occlusion and the normal?
Yep, just those two. You also have this base texture. That doesn't work with these ones because all of my vertex are colorless inside of Maya. There's other modeling softwares that will say, well, this vertex is red, this vertex is green, this vertex is blue, or whatever. Maya doesn't do that, so every single one of them is the same color. When you say extract the information out of this thing, everything is going to be completely flat. That's why we did the first extraction inside of Maya. Now with my normal map enabled and my ambient occlusion enabled, my anti-aliasing, the higher the better, but I don't have enough time, so I'm just going to say 1x. That is going to be good enough for now, okay? So 1x, and then I will just say generate maps. Say okay, and notice how it's getting that information there with those small quads. It's going to take more time on the 8x, but it's going to do a better job. So one is my ambient occlusion, the other one is my normal map. Those two maps, alongside with the texture, the base color texture, those are going to be what you need to submit for Friday. So basically the two maps you can just get out of this software and then you're done. Now, what happens if your object doesn't have any more information? I still need to see a normal map. So whatever you can add on to that normal map for now, it's going to be fine. I will be showing you a sculpting software once we get back from break, and that is where this whole normal map extraction is going to shine really. Okay, but for now, if you don't have anything higher polygonal there, like you don't have more details you want to bake into your texture, I don't know, just mold some bolts or something in case that you have a gun, or maybe some indentations in case that you have a sword, something like that. Just add something onto that normal map. Doesn't need to be perfect. I'm still requiring you to have a normal map, even if the map is completely flat. Okay? That was your question? Yeah. Okay. If it's completely flat, I don't care, but I want to see that you try to extract the information here. What is going to show, no matter what you have, is going to be the ambient occlusion one. So this is what an ambient occlusion map looks like. Why do I care about the ambient occlusion? Well, for now, what I'm going to do is multiply this into my shell. So I'm going to take this ambient occlusion. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to take this ambient occlusion and I'm going to open with Photoshop. I'm going to take this and I'm going to duplicate this layer on top of my original shield. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to take this map and I will say multiply. Then I'm going to change the opacity to something a little lower. Something like that is fine. And I will save file, save, go back to my object here. And now what I'm going to do is go back to my texture. And it did refresh it. Do you see that? I didn't need to draw specifically on top of that thing to make the color work. So that is the power of the ambient occlusion. Notice that I have no more details here in the top, right? The indentation is just saying, oh, I have shadows here because this thing is just going in, which makes sense. but it's not really giving me the whole power of what these things should look like. So Luke, can you help me out, please? So I'm going to go to my bump mapping, and I'm going to go to my file, change this to tangent space normals, and now assign this texture, the one on my desktop. I should move those textures, by the way, to the source image, but case of speed here. And I'm going to select my normals, and now notice how the light is bouncing out of the surface better. It's kind of hard to see if I don't have a light source, so I'm just going to press 7, which is with lights, without the default lighting. And I'm going to go to my rendering. I'm going to select this point, light, and I'm going to lower the intensity. Don't worry about this part, this is not part of the exercise, but that's too low, 0.5. Oh, that's the ambient light, duh. That's never gonna give me anything. Now notice how the shadows get calculated on the shield. So the information of the high polygonal sculpture is there, even though the low polygonal is not. Notice how these get differentiating. That is based on the actual texture. Not only that, if I go back to my Photoshop, I can use this thing in order to get the actual colors out of the shape. So I can just be like, well, I'm going to do a polygonal selection. So from here to here to here, and shift from here to here to here. And from here to here to here. And I can just be like, well, that part is supposed to be yellow, so I'm going to paint it in a new layer down here as yellow. So paint, and there you go. I add the colors there. The same deal applies. These needs to be multiplied in order to take the colors from down there. So multiply, and it's multiplying by the blue, so I don't like that. I might as well just take it out of this shell. Control X, and then I have the yellow going or bleeding through. I can do the same for the eagle, and I can do the same for these parts here, which are supposed to be just base metallic. Does all of that make sense to you guys? Because I have 3 more minutes to just answer any questions. Okay, what is the exercise? By Friday, at the beginning of the class, Luke is going to be taking a look at this texture. The only thing that I need from you is to upload this texture, a PNG file. There is a Dropbox in my courses, you put it there, and you get credit for the exercise. This is going to be really useful for your homework assignment on Friday, that is due on Friday night as well. Okay? Right, let me stop the video, and I will be posting this video later.